How do you push yourself to be so creative?
You know, I think I grab the ideas that I have. And I believe everyone has ideas, but I know that that's not necessarily true. I have my literary agent is a great woman, very smart. I think she went to, I want to say Yale, graduate school, somewhere else. I mean, she's a very smart, and she majored in English. And one day I was talking to her, and she majored in like English and history. I said, hey, you know what? Why are you a literary agent? Why don't you write a book? And she said, I look at, she said, I look at an empty screen on the computer, and I don't really, nothing jumps out at me that I want to write down. And I said, when I look at that empty screen on a computer, I have to down select the billion ideas that I've got running through my mind that I'm going to, I'm going to take this one and take it to fruition. So I've got so many ideas in my mind. It's my goal to try and execute as many as I can. I know I'm not going to be able to, but I think what happens to me is I get these little ideas, and I think they're like little seeds, and you can't really even tell what they look like sometime in the beginning. You don't really know what it is. And then all of a sudden I put some water on it. I start thinking about it. I start noodling over that idea in my head, and it starts to grow. And eventually it gets to a point where I got to get it out of my system. And that's how I end up doing stuff. That's how I guess that's my creative process, for lack of a better word.
And have you gotten better at nurturing your own creativity over the years?
Uh, I don't know if I've gotten better at it. I think maybe I've gotten better at down selecting which ideas need to come out. But even that's a process. And you think, all right, how, I've got 7 ideas in my head. Which one am I gonna execute on? And you pick that one, and you start to go down that path, and hopefully you go, yep, that was a good one.
When we were on the HMS Belfast, I think in the control room, I just noted the fact that a lot of people are surprised that a guy with your CV, U.S. Navy SEAL in Ramadi, Iraq, is also writing children's books. And you kind of laughed, and it is something that surprises people sometimes, especially the way you look and the way you are. And yet, do you think sometimes that stops maybe men, sometimes that are on more of the alpha spectrum or achievement spectrum, from kind of embracing their creativity? Because a lot of guys, maybe from your background, would never allow themselves to write a novel.
I can't speak for other people. I don't know. I just do what is in my head. I don't really think about it from a like universal perspective of what other people should or should not do. I mean, I did say the other day on my podcast that if you have ideas in your head that you are thinking about, and you think they may benefit people, and you don't get them out of your head and into the world, it's a mortal sin. So yes, I get tormented by the ideas that I have, because I know I should get them out, and I do my best, but I'm telling you, I'm hitting 10% right now. I got a lot of work to do.
What's coming next? Book of poetry? Screenplay?
Well, the novel that I wrote, when it comes out, it's in a form which is not normal. I'll say that. It is not poetry, but it is not prose either. And so I think people are going to have to judge that when they see it, but I don't think there's not been any book like it. It's kind of like when I published the Discipline Equals Freedom Field Manual. That my publisher, that book is totally unique. I'll say it's totally unique. There's no other book like it. And I asked my publisher when we were publishing, I said, is this the biggest risk you've ever taken publishing a book? And he laughed. He said, this is so far beyond the biggest risk. There's no other book like this. It's really expensive to publish. We have to dye the pages black because I want it to look a certain way. And, the words in it, I mean, there's people that go, yeah, that's a poetry book. And I go, well, you can call it whatever you want. Those are just the way the words come out of my brain and onto the page. So I don't know. I may do anything. I don't have any restrictions or limitations on what I will execute. I will execute on what I want to do. I won't change it. That's another great thing. I have my own publishing company. So my publisher knows that. If they don't want to publish something that I do because they don't think it's going to sell or whatever, cool, I'll do it myself. I don't care. And they know that. But they also know that for whatever reason, the things that I do, people do want to buy it. And so they've been good. And, we'll see how this next one works out. But I don't put any restrictions on what I do based on whether people are going to buy it or not buy it. I mean, you look at my podcast is probably a prime example of what not to do to get people to listen to your podcast. I talk about war. I talk about death. I talk about destruction. I talk about atrocities. I do it for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time with just me often and Echo Charles, but me talking 98% of the time. And if you were going to make a podcast, there's no person in the world that would tell you that is going to be the podcast that people listen to. I didn't make it so that people would listen to it. I made it because it was things that I wanted to understand better. And apparently, as it turns out, I wasn't alone.